Hello, my loves. This is Annette of AnnetteLerner.com coming at ya with a bit of a fever from the Oregon coast. And I had scheduled a pre-recorded broadcast for this week because I'm visiting a friend at her home, and I felt it would be remiss to just post that broadcast instead of interrupting what I was going to talk about, which is the fact that it is Invisible Disabilities, Hidden Disabilities Awareness Week, to talk about the unfolding situation in Gaza. And I have a number of people in my life who are Palestinian, of Palestinian descent. I have a number of people in my life who are Jewish. And I don't pretend to understand the complexities of this situation. And yet, I do understand that terrorism is terrorism, and that those of us who can see that need to identify it as such, need to speak out against it, need to envelop our loved ones in our embrace of loving kindness, and to lift them up with all the support that we can. And when I'm home tomorrow, I will include in show notes ways that if you are fortunate enough to have dollars that you can contribute, organizations that are taking those dollars to feed the hungry, to provide shelter, to provide medical care. And I was thinking about what I wanted to say and what I wanted you to know. And obviously, I'm not an expert in these things, and yet I really believe that when injustice is happening in the world, we must not remain silent, both in our friendship circles, whether or not they include people who are from Israel or Palestine, but also in the global world beyond us, and that the solution to what's happening there, much like the words of Einstein, will not be resolved with the same mentality that created the problem. Which is to say, the answer to violence and terrorism is not more violence. It is peacemaking, it is love, it is forgiveness. And I acknowledge that I'm saying that from the peacefulness of my friend's beautiful home, as I can look out and see the ocean, and I am living with comfort and relative ease when we compare that to the lives of those who are struggling and displaced. And I can't help but imagine the realities of those struggling with disease and chronic conditions and disability, wondering how they will survive in these dire circumstances. Whether that's access to safety, access to medical care, access to life-saving medications, access to medical devices that prolong their way of life or allow someone to move, have some mobility, have some ability to function and complete major life functions. It's impossible for me to fathom what that's like in the midst of a war zone, or if, heaven forbid, I were kidnapped. I do believe in the power of our consciousness, which is to say, the power of things like prayer, intention, our conscious awareness. And so even if you don't have financial resources that you can give, putting your mind and attention on acknowledging the situation, thinking about the leaders in power, thinking about ways that this situation can be resolved peacefully and preserving the life, liberty, and dignity of those involved is what I think we can each do, even if we are struggling in our own lives, with our own health, with financial resources that are quite limited. So I urge you to maybe set a timer and spend some time each day, even if it's just a few minutes, putting your thoughts and your conscious awareness there, sending prayers if that's something that you do, and contributing by raising awareness in your circles with your family and friends, educating yourself, reading news or watching news from sources that you trust. So it's with a heavy heart that I make this post, thinking about our global brothers and sisters who are suffering and wondering when, how, whether it will end, and hoping that we can all be part of a global solution. So thank you for tuning in. I love you. I will resume next week with more focused broadcasts on chronic illness and disability. But until then, thank you for tuning in. And until we're together again, thoughts to the Middle East.